This research builds on earlier work done by archivists and archival scholars. Trauma-informed archival labor is a relatively new area of archival inquiry, and as such, a literature review revealed few archival writings on the topic. Earlier archival literature on affect and trauma, while important and relevant, focuses on the impact of traumatic events on the subjects documented or their survivors. However, since 2019, there's been an increase in both research and published papers specifically about trauma-informed archival labor, mostly by Canadian and Australian archivists and scholars. More recently, discourse on trauma related to archiving COVID, communities, and recent traumatic events have appeared in blogs, social media, and been the topic of panel discussions at professional forums such as this one. However, to date, there are no specific research on TIA and the US archivists on MLIS education. As I'm speaking to librarians, I'd like to note that the scant literature about trauma-informed labor in libraries highlights that most library-based trauma-informed labor occurs during interactions with the public, not with materials. But it is this gap between the high incidence and potential serious mental health risks of TIA and the apparent lack of education and training on the topic that informs this research study that I'll now present. This research project seeks to understand US-based MLIS education on trauma-informed archival labor and asks three main questions. How knowledgeable are MLIS educators about TIA? Are there current MLIS education initiatives about TIA, and if so, what are their nature? And most importantly, what are faculty attitudes about incorporating it into MLIS curriculum? To gather answers to these questions, an online survey was distributed to faculty at 43 US-based ALA accredited MLIS programs during March and April of 2022. There are 62 completed responses. This is a relatively small sample, and while the results cannot be generalized to all MLIS faculty, they might be transferable. Here's what we learned. In answer to the first question about how knowledgeable MLIS educators about TIA, the study found that 37%, or over 1/3, responded that they had little or no knowledge. Several commented that this survey was the first time they had heard of the topic. Another 37% had some knowledge. This is encouraging, as this is an emerging area of interest in the archive of new terminology and concepts. 14% had good or high knowledge, which would be expected of a small group that are engaged with the topic. Less encouraging was the 81% who had little or no knowledge of TIA management training, which is the training we need, as you saw, to help us manage trauma in the archive. "45% of the respondents reported including some type of educational initiative in their curriculum. These included discussions, readings, blogs, or social media. One flaw of the research is an inability to drill down on the precise materials discussed or read in the classroom. As we saw, the literature review revealed that until very recently, most articles published on archival trauma focus on the subjects of the trauma described in the records and not the impact on archivists working with such records. It is concerning but not surprising that none of the respondents included any TIA management training, given the reported low level of knowledge on the topic and the relative dearth of training programs in the United States. To explore faculty attitudes, the study asked, should the concept of TIA be included in MLIS education? A full 64% agreed or strongly agreed with this concept. Of this group, several respondents expressed that the topic might be better taught as a workshop or another professional development forum rather than as a required class or course unit. However, 30% neither agreed or disagreed, indicating a high level of uncertainty and ambiguity about the topic. Uncertainty centered around how faculty would be trained and qualified to teach the topic. Of the 7% that opposed the concept, concerns were expressed ranging from the need for archivists to, quote, just be adults, to concerns about the overuse or misuse of the term trauma. 51% of respondents supported MLIS TIA training. Again, there were concerns about MLIS faculty being qualified to teach it. To dig deeper, the study asked what obstacles faculty perceived to incorporating TIA into MLIS curricula. The highest factors reported to be grouped into what we termed tools. 1, a lack of training offered to faculty to effectively teach the topic. 2, a lack of awareness about the topic by faculty and staff. And 3, a lack of materials and literature. Another highly scoring obstacle is that there are already too many topics to teach in MLIS curricula. It's a crowded space. As an aspirational profession, MLIS programs keep adding more content, but not more credit hours. In summary, the study found low to moderate knowledge about trauma-informed archival labor among MLIS faculty, and very low knowledge about training and practices to ameliorate its impact on archivists and those using the archive. There were limited but existing educational initiatives. Most thought the topic of MLIS students important for MLIS students to learn, but obstacles included faculty awareness, knowledge, training, and materials, as well as an already overburdened curricula. So what are some next steps the archival community might consider taking? Professional development efforts such as workshops, webinars, and presentations targeted to MLIS faculty seem the next logical step for building awareness and knowledge about TIA and TIA management, so faculty can in turn teach the concepts to the MLIS students. This is not to say that MLIS professionals need to become fully qualified mental health professionals. Instead, the training should include the collaboration of qualified mental health and social workers and provide professors with the concepts needed to introduce students to TIA. There are online trainings offered in Australia, which universities might fund for faculty as part of their professional development training. Moreover, universities in the United States could provide financial or professional incentives for collaborations across departments to facilitate the development and implementation of US training, as well as incentives for completing such trainings. Professional organizations such as the Society of American Archivists and the American Library Association might also sponsor additional trainings and fund faculty, practitioners, and students to attend them. Such initiatives might spark discussions about how to integrate TIA into existing curricula rather than adding it as a standalone course or unit. For example, MLIS classes that teach arrangement and description could introduce the topic to archival students, while TIA could be more deeply explored in classes concerned with archiving for social justice, community archiving, archival ethics, and management of archives. Moreover, TIA training and introduction to TIA should be provided to all students prior to them going out on an internship, where we don't know what they're going to encounter. For that to happen, tools are needed for faculty to teach with, including more literature, guides, and training. Many of these tools have been developed in other countries and can be adapted or adopted. Recent models developed for integrating DEI and community archives training into MLIS curriculum might also be considered and adapted. A dynamic annotated bibliography of the literature exploring the topic would be a useful tool. Finally, additional research. This research will be submitted for peer review and publication with more in-depth analysis of the results. Additional research is still needed. While this study did not have the capacity to survey practicing archivists, this might be a good follow-up to help to inform the research. Additional research might include semi-structured interviews with faculty, students, and practicing archivists to determine the most effective and welcomed educational initiatives to support the next generation of people-centered archival professionals. Certainly, this kind of research can be extended to include libraries and librarians. So that's kind of what I wanted to say, and I wanted to sort of move up now to a discussion and talk about how we can work together to change the situation. Obviously, there's an impetus to include trauma-informed archival labor, information, knowledge, and training into MLIS, but we're not quite sure how to do it. So I just jotted down some questions. Does your organization offer any trauma-informed training, and if so, what? What might trauma look like in a library versus an archive? Do you think TIA education is needed? What steps do you think are best? Who and where should faculty be trained? And what are the best approaches for faculty to teach TIA to MLIS students? course, there are other questions that you all have, and I welcome the discussion that we're going to have. Just before we do that, I want to let you know, thank you to the CLAPS committee, Professors Berlin Loa and Yvonne Mary. And this is my address at Arizona EDU. These resources are mental health resources available to you. They were put in the chat. This is also some very basic literature on trauma-informed archival labor that you might want to read, and a link to a trauma-informed management training course in Australia. That's self-directed, so you can do it on your own time zone. Thank you. Yvonne?
Can you see the chat, Catherine? There's a question. Can you see that one?
Curious about your use of trauma-informed labor as a term. Seems that the archival trauma you're discussing is worse than when such labor is uninformed about trauma. Have you run across this term, other terms, run across other terms in your work? Okay, so yeah, trauma-informed archival labor is pretty much the language that's being used in the field to discuss any kind of labor that is informed by trauma. So you can think of it as, it's talking about any kind of work you're doing in an archive or in a library where you are having to deal with trauma. And so that's why they say trauma-informed archival labor. This is the term that I've read in almost all the papers that have been done since 2019 about the topic and all the research that's been done. As I said, some people do refer to trauma as simply vicarious trauma or secondary trauma. So that is a term that's used in Canada, for example. And they say secondary trauma. And in Australia, they sometimes refer to things as vicarious trauma. But most people come back to, when we're talking about this topic as a discipline or as an area of inquiry, we use trauma-informed archival labor. Yes, I am available. I am available. I am aware of the ICA survey that just went out. That this is part of what's called TIACOP, Trauma-Informed Archival Labor, a Community of Practice, which is an international group working to tackle issues around trauma-informed archival labor. And I'm actually on the education committee there. And yes, that's very, very wonderful that they got the grant to do that, and they're going to do it. It's going to bring in a lot of new information and new evidence-based information from which we can build tools and we can build programs. Yes, thank you for letting people know. Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the graduation. I know, I'm so thrilled. Is anybody working in a library experience any sort of traumatic events? I mean, what the readings that I've done, it's all about, it's much more, it's not about your materials, it's about encounters with patrons or the community that are more traumatic than that. Evangela?
Hi there, I'm Evangela Oates, the Associate University Librarian for Student Success at University of Minnesota Libraries. My question to you, thank you for your presentation and tackling this very important topic. And my question for you is, you talk about the prevalence of this research in places in Australia and Canada. And what I'm wondering is, I know there was a recent issue that looked at what they call radical empathy, which was published in it. And a lot of the articles were written here by people here in the United States about their experiences. One of those articles was written by educators in LIS education. You probably know her, Nicole Cook, and some other folks with that. So what I'm saying is that there are probably different terminology that is being used other than trauma-informed. That could be a lens that some people are looking for, but there is an issue on it And there was a special issue dedicated to radical empathy in archival practice. So I would say that when looking at critical scholarship, it's important to think about the language that other people are using to describe their experiences within that. And I think then you'll probably find some more research that comes here out of the experiences of schools, LIS schools here in the United States, and just in general. So I think that is something to consider. And who are we reading, when we're looking at this? There are critical scholars who are doing this work here.
Right. So Marika Seafor and Michelle Caswell wrote several papers on radical empathy, and those papers highly informed the trainings, for example, that were developed in Australia and in Canada, and are part of, when we're talking about archival managed practices, those practices are built all around those concepts of radical empathy, and yeah, so people are looking at it from many different lenses, like you say, in many different ways. I think that it's that's why I was talking about having a complete annotated bibliography, which I put together, and it don't have time to go over everything here, but having that as a tool for faculty, for example, to read and to be able to select readings that they'd like to assign to their students is, I think, a really important thing, because there are lots of people working at coming at this at different angles. I'm coming at it from a from the angle of my research here is trying to determine sort of a baseline, an evidential baseline of how much do people know, how much do faculty know, do they think it's important or not, and then and building on that. And I think that people that have read C4 and these articles about radical empathy are much more sympathetic to it, because they understand the background. That's sort of the background of all of this. And radical empathy is one of the main components of the practices, the trauma-informed management practices. So thank you for bringing that up. There's been a lot written lately. It's really, I started researching this about 4 years ago, and just in those 4 years, there's been a lot that's been done. The reason that a lot of work has been done in Canada and Australia, I think, this is my theory, is because they've had national reconciliation and reparations programs, which have forced the whole country to look at what's going on, and also expose many archivists as well as subjects to reviewing traumatic materials. And so this whole school of thinking about, wow, this is really important. If we're going to do this work, we need to take care of ourselves, the subjects, their survivors, their ancestors. Everyone needs to be taken care of. And that is sort of what radical empathy is about. Like, everyone needs to be taken care of. And yeah, so we are just starting those kinds of processes here in the United States. I think that the upcoming generation of archivists are going to be very involved in these kinds of archival research projects. And I really like to see that they're prepared for any kind of emotional outfall that might happen, fallout, not outfall, fallout that might happen while they're doing that important work. Thank you. Lack of response or management around seeing is just as distressing the actual processing and being that perfectly. Yeah, so one of the things I did try to slip in there a couple times was talk about training staff, making awareness for staff, because all of these initiatives that we're talking about cost money. And so if the administration doesn't understand that this is an important topic, that maybe they need to put some resources towards facilitating collaborations between the psychology department or the social work department and the library science department, so they can create programs or present programs, that at the moment there's no financial incentive for anyone to do any of this, right? So getting staff and administrators on board too, having them understand that these things are important, and that this is a vital area that they need to consider funding, just like they funded DEI initiatives finally, but it took a long time. And yeah, so it's part of really building an awareness and a caring kind of approach to how we all do our jobs. I learned about both different the social and are both different in my eyes. I'd like to hear more about that. Yes, I do think this contingent and precarious employment. So that just adds to people's stress. So you're in a one of the things that's come up in some of the panels I've been on is that people that are in contingent or precarious employment situations, not only can that be a source of trauma for them, but they're reluctant to talk about any kind of difficulties they're having in their job. So they're reluctant to talk about feeling traumatized or feeling like they can't really handle what's been handed to them because they are so dependent on this job and they want to get the next job, and so they want to stay quiet about it. They don't want to discuss it, and that's why this thing that Michaela Hart in Victoria was saying, that we need to normalize this so that it's not a negative thing that people have these experiences. This is a natural reaction to aversive materials. And so it is true that like so many archivists have a very insecure employment base, and they don't want to rock the boat. So the archivist, Stephanie, that you processed emotionally distressed materials before, was there any support for you at your organization, or how did you deal with it, or do you not want to discuss that? Oh, okay. Um, okay. Um, all right. Well, are there any more comments or discussion points that people would like to bring up? Okay. Um, Professor Mary, did you have any questions about the research itself?
No, oh, yeah, can you tell us a little bit about, forgot that one. Can you tell us a little bit about the research process for this?
Right. So this research started when I took my research methods class, and I had been working on archival labor and trauma in the archive. I started by writing about affect in the archive, and then moved to trauma in the archive. After reading several accounts, I did some case study work, and became interested in the idea of archival trauma and how it impacted workers. Not only I was looking at archivists as well as historians and researchers that were in the archive. And when I took my research methods class, I had already been quite engaged with it. And I used that class as an opportunity to write a proposal to learn about. I was going to at first try to write a very large research project, kind of like what Ika's doing, you know, about archivists, like a very broad thing about archivists and archival trauma. But I really managed to just uh, push it down and restrain it and constrain it to just be about education, because it seemed to me that this was really a missing link. That we do know that there is archival trauma, and then we know that there's a need for training, but there's like a missing link in there. Where does that training come from? Should it be part of your master's degree program? Should it be something you learn on the job, or should it be something that's offered by like the Society of American Archivists? Where should it be? Where should it be placed? And why doesn't it happen? Once I learned more about it, I was kind of surprised that it wasn't happening. So I used that class to do my literature review, to write my proposal, to really refine my questions. Then I took an independent study um, with the university, and I went through the IRB process, which involved refining all of my materials. and getting a lot of permissions, jumping through a lot of loops, but it's certainly worth it. And then we used listservs to distribute the survey. The survey was done on Qualtrics, and we used listservs from the university, and then also of the 43 universities, we sent it out to their listservs as well as the Society of American Archivists and a couple of other of our archival societies. And then the material, when we got our results back, which was, we had it out for 6 weeks. When we got our results back, we did first qualitative analysis and then the first top line of coding, which has not been completely done. So, it was kind of a whirlwind doing this in one semester with just one other support. I had a supervisor. So it was kind of a whirlwind to do it, but it was really fascinating. And uh, I think that if I were to do it again, I would maybe want to align myself with a larger organization and a larger group so that the work was, number one, maybe a bit more authoritative, like if it's coming from ICA or it's coming from Society of American Archivists or something, it has a little more authority, and have a larger group working on it because it's a lot of work for one person to do a research project. So I definitely learned a lot, and I highly encourage other MLIS students to look into an independent study on research. If there's a particular topic that you want to learn about, it's really a way to dig in and really get in there.
I'm just curious, what was your response rate on that, on how many you got back?
We only got 62 responses back. It was
Oh,
very
okay.
low. And I don't know what that was from. I don't know if that was, could be that people just don't even know what trauma-informed archival labor is, and they just didn't think it related to them, or if just survey burnout, like too many surveys, or we did do repeated calls for the survey, which is, the sort of the general best practice that we did. We did all the best practices, but it was pretty low. I was kind of disappointed in the number of people we got back, but the comments that we got back on our open questions were very pithy, and I was pleased with that. So it seems like the people, it's always self-selected. The people that self-selected seemed quite engaged, and it was only 13 questions, but they seemed quite engaged.
And there's another question in the chat.
Oh, do you believe that our current political climate would be a hindrance to TIA and radical empathy knowledge? I think our current political climate, if I could say so, means that we need this more than ever. Uh, you know, I just think that there's going to be more and more topics that archivists are going to be collecting that are going to be more and more fraught, and um, it's been, as we've seen, it's been very hard for people to sort of just get along. And so there's going to be more conflict, more traumatic events. We're seeing political violence, gun shootings, all sorts of things that are just sort of shocking to me. I'm a little older, so I look back and I think, gosh, I thought we'd been all through all this. But yes, but I think they will be some people who will be against trauma-informed archival labor and radical empathy as something that they relate to, like, critical race theory or something that's like some foreign other thing that they don't want to know about. But I think there'll be a lot of people who will think that it's very important. Oh, I'm
And
so
there's
glad to hear about,
one
I'm
more
so
question.
glad to hear you have another, you're teaching this. That's great. I'd love to talk to you. Um, okay, Tiffany, I think the two can be related. Yeah, I agree. Like, yeah. So if you're working in these areas of redescription or working in archives, it's shocking what you come across. Yes, of course, universities must exist in a political climate, but this seems like, this is about the well-being of our future practitioners and of our students. So MLIS students go out and do internships. They're without any kind of preparation. They don't know what they're going to find when they go out there, and if they're not in anywhere prepared. This is one of the things that came out of the study that Sloan did in Canada, was that so many of them came across materials and none of them had been prepared. And the other part of her research was about how the organizations that they were working in responded. And, there was sort of a split. Some organizations were very empathetic and helpful, and other organizations offered absolutely nothing. And, so this is part of this urgency, I think, if I could put it that way, that people start to really recognize that the well-being of everyone, the people that are the subjects of the archival materials, their ancestors, their families, their survivors, and the people that are working with the materials, their well-being is important. And as we dig into things that might not be, we go below the surface of things, there's going to be more traumatic materials.
And Kate, I'm not sure if you saw, there was a question from Heather a little above that she asked, what are some ways that we can convince the folks who are less on board with this issue that they should be aware and invested?
Well, I think just, are you I mean, I don't know if you're talking about your fellow faculty or you're talking about your administrators. I think that, like with fellow faculty, is just, bringing it up more, just talking about it more, discussing it more. The more it comes to the top of mind, the more it comes to, be normalized, the harder it's going to be for people to push back. It took a long time to get diversity and equity initiatives to be an accepted, normal part of institutions. And now almost all institutions have that now. But it took a long time, but it took a lot of talking. It took a lot of talking on platforms such as like that have respectability, like the Society of American Archivists needs to get on board with this. People who have a little bit of authority need to talk about it. It's important that people bring it up in the context of other topics. So if they're talking about redescription, they're talking about that, they need to bring up archival trauma and just integrating it more and more and more into all the discussions so it becomes more normal. I mean, I think that they could, giving them some readings. I mean, one of the things that shocked me the most was when I watched a presentation in Canada by a woman who was an archivist for the Episcopalian Church, which is Church of England there in Canada, who was an archivist for the church. And when they did the reconciliation, she was tasked with pulling out all the records because that's where their churches had run all the residential schools. And the things she found in the records were horrific. And she was totally unprepared. And when she talked about it, the impact it had on her. I mean, it changed her life. She ended up becoming, she ended up leaving archiving and joining the church and becoming a reconciliation person. So I just think bringing it up as often as possible in as many contexts and making people feel it's real and it's valid. I mean, there's always going to be some people who feel like this is not valid, like the person that said, "Oh, people just need to grow up," or and I agree. I agree with the person that objected because there's so many. The word trauma is being thrown around a lot in our society right now, and so there's that. But just bring it up, keep bringing it up. I don't know if that answers your question. I mean, that's why we're trying to find solutions. I mean, I think that bring it up to your dean or in some, I don't know, I'm not a faculty member, I'm still a student. I don't know what forums you have for speaking to people about it. I mean, um, I think one of the big problems is finance because it costs money to do programs. It costs money for people to attend programs. That's the bottom line. But it doesn't cost money to add a reading to your list, to your curriculum. Yeah. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, it has grown a lot, Anna, in the last couple of years, and it's really encouraging. Um, so you could look up TIACOP, which is TIA-COP, the Trauma-Informed Archives Community of Practice, which is a global effort to deal with issues like this. Yeah, Nix, I agree. Radical
Yeah.
empathy.
Speaking as a faculty member, I don't think going to a dean is going to do you.
I have no idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, I mean, the dean is just far, like, they're not going to interfere with your individual classes. I think this is where program committees would be useful.
Okay, thank you.
This is where they determine, what is necessary to teach in your classes. Trauma is not one of the required things I need to do in my classes, but
No.
it's something that at least, I mean, at least a colleague and I, do this regularly. So
Is this Eric?
yes, this
Okay.
is Eric.
Yeah. Well, originally when I started this, my big thing was that SAA should include it in their credentialing, requirements. But then I realized, like, well, that'll take a century to happen. But I would like to see, places like SAA offer, some workshops or something. I think that there would be interest in it, and yeah, thank you for the programming. I don't know how faculty actually work. I don't know how things happen, but yeah, so that you being aware, you do it, and then maybe you mention it to a colleague and they say, oh, and you give them some resources and they add it in or something, and it just seems like that's how things evolve. You're not going to be able to force people to do it. What are archival policies on accepting collections? What are the archival policies on accepting that might trigger TA? Okay, so one of the things that we've seen was mentioned with Michelle Hart's piece is that you can you have a warning, a descriptive warning on the boxes before people start to process them, so that people have an idea. I mean, in archives, people do talk about, like, so this new collection's come in, it contains yada yada yada. Who would like to do it? And I was talking to a guy at SAA who works at Harvard, and he's at the women's studies area, and the collection came in from this sex worker, all of her archive. And he said, so everybody said, well, who would like to do this? And everybody turned and looked at him and said, you can do it, because nobody wanted to go through this particular, they were kind of bashful about looking at this archive. He said, I'll do it. But having an idea of what's in the collection and then letting people know before they start processing it, what they might expect. There are going to be things in collections that you just can't anticipate. For example, at the National Park Archives, I've heard that people think they're going to be recording visitors and bears and, waterfall levels, and they come across murders and terrible crimes that are committed in the parks. So they're not really prepared for that. So that's just letting students know that it might not always be labeled. It might be something that you don't anticipate. But if you come across that and you're feeling this, that's normal. And here are the steps you take if that should happen to you.
Great. Just want to, time's up, unfortunately.
Annie Reed. Oh, great. That's
So,
great.
yeah, just want to remind everyone time's up. So I want to give everyone enough time to get on to their next session and take a little break. I think there are a few more sessions. So yes, thank you. Thank you again that was absolutely awesome, Katherine. Thank you. And thank you everyone for attending.
All right. Thank you very much for your feedback, people. I really appreciate it. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.